Holy Grail BCJ podcast right here on BearcatJournal.com. And we will get things started here in just a second. As always, thanks to our friends at the Holy Grail. Get yourself down to the banks and get you some good food, get you a few cold beverages, and just have yourself an all-around delightful time at the Holy Grail. All right, we're on a time crunch here as we've been battling some technical issues. StreamYard has not wanted to play nice tonight, but we are finally live, and we are live with two guys that are very important to the present and the future of the Cincinnati Bearcats. None other than Athletic Director John Cunningham and the man behind Cincy Reigns, my dear friend, Brian Fox. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good to be with you guys.
Glad to be here. Love you, Chad.
Love you too, B. Fox. Here. Always a warm hug and warm embrace.
Sure.
John, Brian, and I actually hug every time we see each other.
Okay.
Yeah, John and I aren't there yet, but give it time.
Trust me.
We'll get there. John, first, we'll touch just for a moment on everything that's happened over the past week. Did you get a good night's sleep Monday night?
Yes. Monday night, I did. I slept really hard Monday night, and for a long time, I think I hit the bed about 8:30 and woke up at my usual time. So got a full night's sleep, which I needed, and it felt really good.
When did you kind of get the sense that things were trending towards Scott Satterfield? And obviously you get a sitting Power 5 head coach, a guy that checks a lot of the boxes, has recruited well, is out in front of the NIL landscape. But when did you start to get that feeling that I think we might have found our guy? And I'm not saying that to trick you into telling us the timeline.
Yeah, no. I think I talked about it. We had a couple face-to-face interviews really over the weekend, and then made a decision at that point. And when I say we, the president and I, Dr. Pinto and I, and so it was at that moment that we sat down, reviewed those that we had talked to, and did just kind of a holistic look and pros and cons and all those things that you do when you make a really important decision. And then we felt comfortable that this was going to be our guy, and we're going to go forward and let's do it. So that's how it all came to be.
Dave,
when you were talking to Scott throughout the process, was there any moment or any part of the conversation that kind of clicked with you specifically that made you think, whether it was at the beginning where you were like, I want to know more, talk more to him, or towards the end where you're like, this is who we need to have as our next coach? Was there any part of the conversation that hit on that?
His overall authenticity and just his honesty about our questions. I think as you guys get to know him from the media realm, when you ask him a direct question, he's going to answer it. And so that struck me. No pretense about him, just kind of straightforward. And then the other thing that really got me thinking a lot about his culture was when he talked about his love of being around the guys. And, he's a ball coach. He grew up around the game. He loves the game, just has a passion for football. And then he has a passion for his players. And not only when they're playing for him, but he talked about guys that he had coached in the past and what they were doing and how they're having families now. And he's getting cards and calls from them. And that meant a lot to him. He structured his program so that he said he wanted the guys on the team to walk into the building and always want to be there. Not dread walking into his building or dread going to practice. He said we work too hard to not really enjoy this. And that meant a lot to me because I think that's probably an underrated piece to the transfer portal, to be honest with you. Everybody thinks it's all NIL. I actually think it has a lot to do with how much student athletes love to be around the program and really enjoy their team and the culture that has been built. And I think going forward, that's going to be just as important as NIL money.
Finally, before we get into the Cincy Reigns conversation, did you know that he finished second to Luke Fickell 6 years ago? Or what was your thought when you learned like this was a guy that they were already almost close to hiring here?
Yeah, I found out during the process that he had interviewed, but I didn't know he was that close. I mean, it didn't really make a difference. Obviously, he was that coach at that time coming out of Appalachian State that had done so much and won so many games and 3 straight conference championships and 3 straight bowl games at App State. So not surprising he was courted then. And then, talking through him taking over a 2-10 Louisville program that went 0-8 in the ACC, and what that was like when he took over and how he kind of quickly gathered the reins and changed the feel around that building and the feel around that program to go then, win and become ACC Coach of the Year in his first year, and then go to 3 bowl games in 4 years. That meant a lot. Just his description of what it was like to take over a program that was not in good shape.
All right, let's bring in our guy, Brian Fox. And Brian, I'm going to bring up something from the past here. It looks like you could do a pretty nifty fireside chat from the rich mahogany in John Cunningham's basement office.
That's true. I do not see a crackling fire, but we can bring one. I have like this big fake fire that it's portable.
Brian, welcome in. I'm sure most everybody here is very familiar with you and your connection to the program. Just before we get to the back and forth, give us a brief Cliff's Notes version of Cincy Reigns, how it got started, and how you've kind of partnered with the university in making this the collective for Bearcat Athletics.
Sure. So it got started as it all started when the NCAA issued their interim guidance in July 2021, where they changed the rules with respect to name, image, and likeness. And there were a group of folks at the university that were trying to think through what's the most sustainable, strategic, thoughtful way to create a collective that accomplishes some of the more laudable and meritorious goals of that. So had a number of meetings with stakeholders and folks that were interested in being involved. My particular reason for involvement, given my legal, regulatory background, and also my knowledge of the donor base and the folks that bleed both black and red, I think provided an organic connection for me to be helpful, try to be helpful in this way. So Cincy Reigns is a registered nonprofit with the state of Ohio, as well as an LLC. And there's 2 paths. There's the LLC, which serves as a clearinghouse for local businesses and folks to partner with position groups, individual players, folks that they want some sort of marketing and advertising return on their investment. By virtue of that partnership, we can help provide a forum to negotiate that and help them connect. And then the nonprofit is focused more on, serving as a charitable compliant conduit for folks to provide, donations to benefit student athletes. And then the student athletes in turn provide, a bump for those, for some charitable entities in greater Cincinnati that, by way of, both, using their platform to try to champion those causes, and also by being directly involved in those. So those are the 2 things. And that's laid out more in depth at cincyreigns.org. Had to throw that in there.
And I think this is something that's important to make clear. No money is coming off the top to the people running the collective. Everything that is put into the collective goes straight to the athletes at the university.
That's right. Yeah. There's a number of ways to do this. There are plenty of collectives across the country that the folks involved are profit-minded. I am negative profit-minded and using this as a way to give back and to make an investment, my own personal financial resources, but also my time, effort, and energy to try to get this thing going to make a difference.
John, how much did all of this, as it was playing out, did you have a hand in? I know you can't have a hand in what the NIL does, but in the university's interest in being involved with something, how much was there an ability to work together and kind of have a meeting of the minds and find, what both parties were looking for.
Yeah, I think one thing a lot of schools are running into is they've got NILs that are happening that they don't even know anything about, and they're being operated and run by people they don't trust. The great thing here is that wasn't the case. Obviously, we knew Brian. I remember meeting him maybe my first week here. I sat down with him for a while, and so I knew him well. People on our staff knew him well, trusted him. He was going to build it the right way. Just a smart guy that was like he said, just going to put everything he had into this and not ask for anything back. Right? He's doing it because he just loves the Bearcats. And so right there, you're off to a good start. And then on top of that, he had such a good plan around it, and it was structured so well. So I feel very fortunate that Cincy Reigns came to be. I feel like we've structured it the right way and for all the right reasons. And for that, I'm thankful because I think it can grow and be one of the best in the country. I really do. I think it's off to a really good start, but we just need everybody to think about their love for the Bearcats, because the battles for the best players in the country and the battles to retain the best talent is being fought in the space of NIL. And that's where we need people to invest.
Dave?
Yeah, John, you talked, a week or so ago and then again this week about, NIL and its involvement from a coaching standpoint, and that was an important piece. Just in your mind, what were you looking for as far as that space and the coaching candidate? Like ideas or just a general understanding of the system as it's currently structured? Were you looking for someone that had been in a program that was, well into the NIL, or, just kind of walk us through a little bit of how that element played into the coaching search?
Yeah, I think the big piece of it was I needed a partner in this new world of college athletics and this new world specifically of college football. It doesn't do us any good to bury our heads in the sand in terms of what's going on. I think I've used the term radical acceptance. I think you got to accept where you're at, and obviously the rules can change and switch, and I'm sure they will over the next few years. But right now, like I said, you've got to understand where the battle is being fought, and Coach Sat obviously did. He talked a lot about that. He had a plan. He had a program that they were using at Louisville. Obviously that was going well, but he was also excited about some of the things that we were talking about and some of the controls that we had in place and the systems that we had up and running that he could tap into. So it was really, going back to your question, David, just being, I needed a partner. I didn't need somebody that was going to go off and try to do their own thing or just try to ignore it and act like it's not taking place. So I found that with him.
How do you combat the inducement side of what seems to be some collectives or groups out there while still being productive in what Cincy Reigns is trying to do and kind of fighting? Because it's clear that is out there. Hopefully not for long, but how does that framework of what some groups have going on differ from what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I'll touch on the inducement piece first, which is, to be honest with you, the way it's structured right now, it's a little bit of semantics, right? So there's rules that say that you cannot have recruiting conversations with prospects that have specific dollar amounts attached. But what you can do is you can talk to prospects about ranges that you've previously given to previous student athletes. So this idea that everything revolves around inducement and that's a clear line, that I don't think that's a true statement. So that's the reality of it. And then in terms of what we were doing, obviously we had some of our larger donors that were giving to NIL previous to Cincy Reigns forming. And, I think that there's an opportunity for larger donations that will continue. to take place. But Cincy Reigns to me was, we got to get to the way we're going to be successful is we got to get to our masses. We have to get to our everyday fan that's passionate about the Bearcats, that's buying a season ticket, that's buying a single game, that maybe doesn't live in Cincinnati but just wants to help. If we do that right with 320,000 living alumni, we can really grow this thing quickly and become really a model for everybody else, which is kind of that crowdfunding model that Brian has really put together.
Brian, what is the short term? How does this thing, I know you're off to a good start, but how do you kickstart this thing and make it become something that is just part of, because I think this is, in the NIL space, this is what's important for people to know, for fans to know. It has to be a regular thought process. It has to be, think about it like a subscription service or something, something that it can't be kind of like an athletics donation where you take the lump sum, you give it, and then you say to yourself, well, next time we get around to it, we'll give it again. It has to be sustainable, right? It has to be something that long-term has legs and not something that's a one-time. It's not a facilities donation. It is an infrastructure donation for the future health of taking care of the student athletes long-term, right?
Right. Yeah. In the near term, folks like you are really helpful in helping us connect and get that message out, which is vitally important, especially here in the near term. But I like to think about it like muscle memory. A lot of programs, I think, may have had some muscle memory around being helpful in this way. And so it's a new muscle for some of our folks to develop. But it's an important one because I think what you'll find in the, college football landscape, college basketball landscape, and all of, collegiate athletics landscape is that there's going to be some separation because, universities that have a robust and vibrant NIL ecosystem are going to do well. They're going to do well at landing top tier talent. So if we want to be about that, if we want to be about having programs with top tier talent that also use that talent to leverage a top tier impact within the city, then we have to develop that muscle memory in order to be effective. And I think you're exactly right. It's not a one-time check that box sort of thing. We really want folks to make this a part of their regular lives and their regular processes to think about how can I be impactful with student athletes at the University of Cincinnati.
And by being impactful, you can be impactful long-term. Like if you're going to make the investment as a fan to follow things long-term, you now have the ability with Cincy Reigns to kind of put yourself in as part of the process. And that's always kind of been there through donation to the athletic department. But this is donation specifically to the guys that are on the field, the guys that you watch on TV, which I think gives it a little bit different of a feel, right, John?
Yeah, Chad. I mean, I think, one of the things, I think Brian and I talked about this. If we didn't, it was with somebody else recently, but it reminds me a little bit of the Green Bay Packers, right? So that entire community has
they own the team.
They own the team, right? And so it's not just about buying the ticket, and they invest in their ticket, obviously, and everything else. But then they know that part of their investment is an ownership investment, and that really is almost what this is. Hey, I know in a given year I'm going to buy football season tickets and basketball season tickets. It's going to cost X. I'm going to add an additional amount to that every year just to be a part of this because I care so much about the talent on the field and making sure that we're competitive. Because if we give these coaches, all of our coaches, if we give them the best players, they're gonna do really, really well. So that's what it's all about.
John, I know you have a hard out it's 8:30, so I want to let you get to that, but I want to ask, did you realize you had a thing for North Carolina?
No, but somebody was saying that we need to get a Bojangles up here.
There used to be one. There used to be one.
Yeah,
I will say that absolutely we
We
need
have a
to get
former football player that's
up here.
involved in maybe bringing some to Ohio. So he's all excited because he thinks he can get going on that. And then I said immediately,
Bojangles is delicious.
it is delicious. I said immediately that means you got to do an NIL deal with Brian if you're going to bring that up here. So
Yeah,
or
cookout. I love that place as well.
Yeah. So I didn't know that. They're both great individuals and they're both really hard workers, blue collar guys. I mean, Coach Sat telling his story about growing up and what he was about growing up and just the hard work that he and his family are all about. That means a lot to me too. So excited about the future and him, and I can't wait for everybody to get to know him. Can't wait for the players on our team to really get to know him and him to get settled a little bit. But we're going hard and fast here. I appreciate you guys for having me on for a little bit.
Just let him know it's important to do this podcast because it reaches far and wide.
I know it does, and I will tell him that for sure. Yeah, I know he'll do it as soon as he can. So
I know.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, John. Thank you so much, and we appreciate you giving us a little bit of time tonight. And go back and hang out with those kids and teach them what good Christmas movies are.
I will. All right, guys.
Thanks, John. Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.
You got a few more minutes for us, Mr. Fox?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. We'll take a little bit of. I know the people have a lot of questions in the chat. First off, how do they get involved? That's the most important thing. We need to let them know how to get involved.
Yeah, the quickest path is to go to cincyreigns.org. And there's a number of different ways you can click through and donate and contribute. And then, that's more kind of an on the nose way to be supportive, but also being supportive by telling folks about the story and about how important it is. And, if you're inclined to try to shove this message out to your network, we want that because we want as many people as possible who are connected to University of Cincinnati and who care about, the young men and women that wear University of Cincinnati across their chest and compete. We want as many people involved as possible because that's the only way that we really get to a place where we're making a big difference and big dent in this world. The coaches are going to need every resource available to be effective. And, look, nobody 2 years ago really thought this was a likely outcome, right? Nobody really saw this on the horizon. And, I know I've been dealing with some folks who are like, well, isn't this just the same thing as dropping a bag on a player? And, isn't this, how is this okay? And the answer is, well, the Supreme Court unanimously decided in the Alston case that the NCAA's prohibitions against players profiting off their name, image, and likeness was tantamount or really close to antitrust violations. And so, so they were saying that the NCAA was engaged in anti-competitive behavior. And that's really why and how we got here. And it was the Supreme Court's law of the land that forced the NCAA to issue its interim guidance, which has been updated a bunch, and which is still, I would say, rather vague. And I think it's intentionally vague because the NCAA was caught flat-footed by the Alston decision and isn't really sure what role they can play going forward. I think that's the big concern for them, and the impact on collegiate athletics is the NCAA isn't quite sure how and where and what to do about the new state of play.
Go ahead, Dave.
Outside of myself or anybody just going to Cincy Reigns and donating money that way, what ways are you guys and your board and your main people there going out, and how are you guys, what are you guys doing to go out to the community and kind of be creative outside of just, hey, everybody, please, pitch in where when you can.
Yeah. So I would say that this is, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? This is really a brand new thing. So we're really trying to stand up, the nonprofit piece and trying to get that going and capitalize so that we can resource, coaches and make an impact. But there's a role that the LLC can play. And so, evaluating what are some businesses within your network that might be inclined to be involved and to sponsor some players, some position groups, some teams, because I think every bit of that will be helpful. So give directly, that helps. Secondarily, help us tell the story, help us connect to as many people as possible. And then third, if you're involved in business, you own a business, or you have friends who do, talk to them about partnering with us to put together some deals for student athletes, because some of these players have great platforms that they can really leverage and connect to make a positive difference for some businesses to get some good looks from new customers and clients. So I'd say that's kind of the third piece. And then fourth, we're gonna provide some opportunities to participate in some fundraisers. We're trying to put together a fundraiser at one of our board members' hangar in the first quarter of next year. And so we think that could be another great tool for raising funds.
Obviously, a lot of focus from Jack D. Nelson here. Obviously, a lot of focus on football, but how does Cincy Reigns contribute to the broader student athlete community? Another very important question here.
Sure. As you click through, you can designate if you want to impact somebody other than just football. You can click through and make that designation. So that's a piece as well.
And then D. Smith.
what are
some?
I asked him that one.
Okay.
Brad asked, is there kind of a budget that you guys look to accumulate, or how does that work? Where, like, what are your goals? I know that's probably a weird or hard question to answer when you're just starting, but are you holding yourself up against other collectives, groups, or like at similar schools? How do you determine what's good and what's not?
Yeah. I would say every bit is good, and no, we're not. So collectives don't, we're separate from the university. We have a separate board. We're a separate entity altogether. And so, in this space, most collectives aren't out there. Some will saber rattle and throw out, we anticipate raising $23 million to, annually. Is that true? I'm doubtful, honestly. So I don't really have a measuring stick by which we're going to say, we want to exceed Xavier's NIL ecosystem by X dollars, because Xavier's NIL ecosystem isn't going to specifically advertise how much they're resourcing their student athlete community. So most collectives right now are not out there being very specific, and so there's no need to. Every bit helps, and every bit is impactful. One of the things that I think is important is it's not. Of course, dollars are important, but so too is just the number of folks who are involved, because that's another signal to recruits and to players to let them know that there's a lot of stakeholders that are invested in this. Sometimes, I've seen some donations come in that are that some might look at and say, that's a small dollar donation or whatever. But that I actually that I don't want to say those are more meaningful, but when I see that, I typically think, hey, here's somebody who may not have a ton of resources, but they love the Bearcats, and they love what it means to be a student athlete and how freaking hard that is. And they are taking their limited resources and investing in it regardless, because they care so much. So I actually have an emotional connection when I see those, and I think that's a beautiful thing. It's that's important.
So you guys have launched fairly recently, like within the last month or so?
Like a week and a half,
Week
I
and a
think,
half.
or something like that. Yeah.
How has how do you feel it's gone so far? How has the response been?
It's been surprisingly well. So these take a little while to stand up. There are some collectives that I've seen around the country, even at big, that are supporting large athletic programs that have really struggled out of the gate. We have not, and so I'm delighted by that. I think it's a testament to our folks getting the importance of it. I think seeing Luke Fickell leave to go to another program, and knowing that, look, coaches come and go, but we're here, right? We're here until our dying breath. And so, there's an ownership piece that yeah, we want coaches to be good stewards of programs while they're employed at the university, but as fans and alumni and supporters, we too are also stakeholders. And guess what? We're sticking around through sickness and in health. And so, so I think a coach's departure has a way of illustrating how important it is for us to take ownership of it, because, that hero on the hill isn't necessarily going to come down and bail us out.
Anything else you want to touch on? Any stuff that you feel like you've left on the table here tonight? This is about educating and making sure the fan base knows like what this is about, where it comes from, where it goes, how you can help, how you can support. I just want to give you a chance if there's anything else you feel like you need to say.
I don't think there's anything else. I mean, I'm nerdy and kind of wonkish about how this all developed, but I don't know that everybody wants a history lesson.
Give them you got the Cliff Notes version.
I'll give you, yeah, sure. And
the Brian Fox Cliff Notes version.
Yeah.
We could be here a while. You said you got a case to get back to.
Buckle up. So how it ended up here. So in 1984, there was a case involving the University of Oklahoma. And in that case, there was a question about providing benefits beyond just the cost of tuition. And in that case, the Supreme Court at that time, as you know, courts change personnel. At that time, they said the NCAA was not engaging in anti-competitive behavior by imposing these limitations. And if you think about what life looked like in 1984 when that decision was issued, it was way different. Barry Switzer was the head coach of the University of Oklahoma at that time, and his salary was $75,000 a year, which in today's walking around change and spending power is worth like $215,000. Now, of course, college athletics is I want to say either a $4 or $6 billion industry, and coaches are making well above $75,000 a year.
They're making $75,000 a day.
Yeah, they are making a whole lot. And so, when the Supreme Court evaluated the question, pretty much the same question, but I guess 40 years later, the development of collegiate athletics had changed such that, it was seen as a viable, strong marketplace competitor. And so they issued that unanimous decision in the Alston case. And there was the decision was written by Justice Gorsuch, but there was a concurring opinion that was written by Justice Kavanaugh, and he kind of went over the top and threw out a really strong marker and said, this sure as heck looks like antitrust here. And so that was a unanimous decision. Think about how divided the Supreme Court has been on so many issues that are contentious these days. They were unanimous. And if anything, the majority on the Supreme Court only got stronger, even though that was the entire Supreme Court that made that decision. So because of that, you now have the NCAA looking at that precedent and being undoubtedly fearful about making any sort of headway or unnecessary encroachment into this NIL space, because for them, they're already facing this battle for their relevance, and they're already struggling with, a world in which if they try to step out there, let's say, so there are two things that the NCAA has messaged. One is you can't do pay for play, meaning, a student athlete, you can't condition compensation on their willingness to compete in athletics. And then secondarily, it can't be an improper inducement. You can't, condition compensation to a student athlete to play at a particular institution. Well, how does the NIL space look now? And are those anything more than, as John said, semantics? You take BYU is a good example of this, illustrating why the NCAA is appears to be very powerless. So BYU, there was a protein bar company that entered into a deal whereby they were going to issue a stipend for scholarship athletes of $1,000 with a football team, $1,000 per scholarship player. All right. And then if you were a walk-on, they were going to provide you with a stipend that covered the full cost of attendance at BYU. Now, if you think about
way more than the $1,000 the scholarship guys are getting,
right? And how is that not just an extra scholarship? And how is that not an improper inducement to attend BYU? And how is that
you
not
get a lot of really good walk-ons if you can give them do that?
Yeah, right. And how is that not a violation of the pay for play prohibition? And so, again, I think there's a reason that the NCAA has been, pretty flat-footed in trying to step out there and enforce this. I have to wonder whether somebody behind the scenes hasn't, some attorney hasn't pulled them aside and said, hey, don't, if we try to get out there and enforce these rigidly, we're screwed. We're already, facing a battle for our relevance in the college football landscape. We're worried that the conferences are going to just take over, and then we're going to be left with what, right? College basketball maybe, but then do the conferences take that over and negotiate, the media rights for the NCAA tournament? So I think that they are in a precarious position. And, if you've spent much time reading some of the analysis that's come out of this, or you've spent much time just thinking through the practical application of the guidance that the NCAA has provided, there are holes all over the place. And there's very little, infrastructure or, regulatory guidance that provides folks with much direction on how to do this, how to structure it, how to practically apply these things in their given context. And so what you see are, schools across the country, some are just flatly ignoring the NCAA's guidance, I suspect. And so, at University of Cincinnati, at least, you've got a guy in John Cunningham who is conscientious and who does want to do things right and is trying to play the long game in the event that things would shake out differently later on in terms of enforcement. But it's important. So was that too lengthy or nerdy?
You're muted, Chad.
Our guy Tonk says you could have a part-time job reading bedtime stories.
I'd love to read you a bedtime story, nephew.
Thanks to Dave Tangeman. How does the band fit in? They're underfunded in comparison to our peers. The band's not connected to athletics, right? Like that's
right.
There's not a whole lot you can do in this umbrella, right? I don't think.
No.
Okay. And then Tonk, we wanted to know if John Cunningham's office smelled of rich mahogany, which
yes,
it looked like it did. If you're going to be holed up in your basement, that's a pretty nice setup to be holed up in.
Yes, very nice built-ins.
Before I let you go, just wink, wink, nudge, nudge. There is more coming in the partnership between Cincy Reigns and Bearcat Journal.
That's right. That's right. Chad and I, based upon our long friendship and mutual affections, have talked about what is a way that we can provide a forum for BCJ, the BCJ tribe, to get engaged and to mutually benefit our growing footprint and make a difference in University of Cincinnati athletics. So we're going to try to forge some sort of neat little partnership going forward.
And I think we're okay to say this. Hopefully, if everything works out as planned, there will be more opportunity for University of Cincinnati athletes to use Cincy Reigns and Bearcat Journal and the Bearcat Journal, the large and growing rapidly Bearcat Journal community, to produce their thoughts, their content.
Yes.
When you're talking about 18 to 22-year-olds, they are all in the content game right now, and we want to find a way to merge the Bearcat Journal community and the athletes that are on campus at the University of Cincinnati. And that's not just football and basketball and baseball that we cover extensively, but volleyball and soccer and swimming and diving and golf. And I had a conversation with Doug Martin yesterday about some opportunities that we want to talk about. And I think this will be.
Do I get to like have a challenge against the players?
I told him there is an opportunity with Dave Simone to get some more golf content on the site. We could embed you in the golf program, Dave.
I'd be all about that.
Love it.
Maybe you could send me on to some of their like nice warm weather tournaments that they go to, and I'll be the golf correspondent for Bearcat.
No, you get to cover like February matches at the local country club.
Those don't exist. Hate to break it to you.
I would say this. So as Chad, you and I talked about this, like, there are plenty of folks. There are plenty of let's say self-interested folks who have gotten involved in the NIL space. And for me, one of the reasons that I started the media thing that I did a while ago and have remained engaged and interested is because I do think there's a way to make a difference. I especially think there's a way that we can make a real positive difference with Cincy Reigns and with the BCJ partnership. Is my hope is that down the road that we can turn we got to build it one step at a time.
Sure.
But down the road, I'd really like to be impactful for these young men and women who are suiting up and wearing a CPAW. I want them to leave the university not just with a piece of paper that says that they had a criminal justice major and they attended their classes and checked those boxes, but I want them to leave with soft skills and some practical tools that they can deploy down the road when they're no longer playing. 2% of collegiate athletes end up in the pros, and the shelf life of their professional careers is pretty limited. And so thinking about how we can make a positive difference and help train and encourage folks to find their passions and to learn how to responsibly build a platform and do something with it to make a positive difference for their own financial future, but also for the folks that they interact with. That's certainly one of my heartbeats.
We're going to help them, those that are interested, and try to help them build a brand.
Yep.
Brian holds the bag. Dave carries the bag.
I'm nobody's caddy.
All right, man. I know you've got a lot of work to do. We appreciate you giving us a large chunk of your time on this delightful Wednesday evening. We will be talking a lot. And
yes, indeed.
We will have further details as they are available. So the great Brian Fox, bring it in.
Thank you.
Love you guys.
See you, brother. Talk soon.
See you.
There you go. All right. I think if you're looking for the details on what Cincy Reigns is about, what their goal is, how they're going to do this, I don't know that you'll get anywhere a better description with both John Cunningham and Brian Fox providing all of those details on how to get involved, how to be an impactful force as we enter a new world, Dave.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we'll continue to, be a place that you can go to ask questions about it. I mean, it's very, very new, but we need to, this is the deal of college athletics moving forward. Just like John said, with it being a part of the coaching search, this is a way that we can, as a fan base, whether it's the BCJ community or just the Bearcat community as a whole, like you can have make a tangible difference in how your team performs. It helps retain players. It helps get players, not because you're just handing them money, but because there are opportunities for them here that are bigger, more abundant than other schools. And going into the Big 12 and going up against programs that have well-established either collectives or just athletic department budgets that we're not anywhere near yet, every little bit is going to make a difference. So no matter what it is, if it's not, the number is not too small.
Yeah. And just an inside look at kind of what we're thinking. We are in the works, and it's still in the early stages, and we want to make sure we get this right, of developing a Cincy Reigns, a premium Cincy Reigns board on Bearcat Journal that will be the home for content from student athletes, podcasts, video, short form video content, written content, player journals. Think of like what we've seen from the Players Tribune, where you have a player that if they're looking into potentially writing being a career for them, all right, well then let's get a journal once a week through your season. If you're looking, we've talked to somebody on the basketball team of doing a podcast with them, where every week they have a new member of the team come on the podcast with them and sit down and chop it up and ask questions, answer questions. And there's a lot of different ideas that we're sorting through right now. And we want to make sure that when we launch this thing, we do it right and we do it effectively. And we have all our ducks in a row. But that's kind of where my thought process is at. I have no intention. I do not intend to make a dime or take a dime. But I want Bearcat Journal to be a conduit for when these kids are here. If you have people that want to get in the content game, why shouldn't we step up and help? We've been doing this for 16 years now, and we took something from zero, right? Absolute zero, and built it up into the biggest media entity covering the Cincinnati Bearcats on the planet. And I think the right thing to do is to open that up. And if the players, if there's guys that want to get in that game, if there's gals that want to get in that game, let's open the community to them. You guys are the ones, you guys make this possible. So you guys are the ones that will be supporting them and consuming their content and adding to the value of your Bearcat Journal subscription. So that's kind of where I'm at, and just wanted to be open and transparent. I don't want to pin John and Brian on anything right now because, like I said, we're still working through it. But that's a Chad Brendel thought process on how I think Bearcat Journal can have an impact and help these guys as well. So we will be involved heavily. Brian and I are very close, and we're good friends. And I think he's got an infrastructure and a system that's going to be great, taking UC into the future. And there we go. Let's get rolling into the normal show. Matthew Thomas. As a Louisville fan, I just wanted to tell you all thank you. Matthew, piss off. I'll just put it right there. Yeah. Why? Like, you know what I didn't do at all? I didn't go to a Wisconsin podcast to say a word. They hired a good coach. Guess what? If you look at their resumes, Matthew Thomas, Scott Satterfield and Jeff Brom are twins. They're twins. And you guys can't stop tripping over yourself to praise Jeff Brom and run Scott Satterfield out of town. Get the hell out of here.
Block him. Get him out of here.
Bye.
Get him out of here.
Bye. That's the one thing. Like, the Louisville fans have been really, really weird. Like, they are obsessed with this.
It is odd. Like, I mean, every fan base has crazies. I mean, shit. But like, there's been more Louisville fans in the Bearcat Journal mentions over the last couple of days than
any other fan base.
Any other fan base ever.
Never forget, fan is short for fanatic.
Like the picture, like Jaden Davis, who's a Louisville commit right now, has 2 UC coaches doing an in-home visit tonight, and like these just mentions are just like flooded with people, and there's this one guy in particular, one person in particular that I've seen all the time that just sends the same like 3 screen grabs or whatever every time. And it's super weird. Like, you know, you're happy that this coach left and that you were able to hire Jeff Brom. Like, why would you spend a single second?
You got the guy you wanted.
Right. That's my thing. Is like, why would you spend a single second concerned about anything else that was going on outside of your team? It's just weird.
Right. I don't know.
But anyway.
You jumped on Monday night and you gave us your initial, well, you're on Monday morning when it happened.
Yes.
And then you jumped on Monday night. Anything additional over the past couple of days that you want to add to the conversation as we get started in the Scott Satterfield era?
Not in particularly. I mean, I think there's just a lot of newsy things that we need to go over, because if you're not glued to the message board, you're probably, missing some of it. But no, I don't think there's anything new just on the straight, conversation of him as a coach, him as, my opinion on the hire, things of that nature. I don't really have anything necessarily new there. Drew brings up another funny one. Can we get a call into Elon about coach's Twitter handle? Need to get that. Yeah, Drew, that's because for whatever reason,
the idiot Louisville fans took
a bunch of Louisville fans just signed up for different names for Twitter accounts with his name in different ways you can put UC in it. Like, I've done a lot of, things that most people would be like, that's pretty weird. Never crossed my mind to be like, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to sign up for a Twitter account so that someone else can't use the name.
It's just strange.
It's very strange. But let's talk some coaches, because we're starting to have a coaching staff come into focus.
This is what we're going to get 100 times. So I'm just going to ask you right now. And there you go. How concerned should I be that he's just bringing all the Louisville coaches?
Who did you think he was going to bring? 10 coaches from all different staffs?
He got a big salary pool, so that means he has to go and not hire anybody he's comfortable working with.
No, that just means those guys get nice raises. That's the way it works everywhere.
But that's where the thought process in this fan base is right now, is he got this large coaching, or this large pool to work from. So that means he has to get rid of all his coaches that he's familiar with and go hire new coaches that are very expensive that he's not familiar with.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. Like, if you didn't think he was going to bring a handful of guys from Louisville, like, I don't know what to say then. He still has 5 positions to fill.
And
So,
the recruiting department, where there's only
well,
one
I'm just
guy,
talking about like the
and
10
then the strength and conditioning coach. Yeah.
the 10 on the field coaches, like that people were mainly caring about from a recruiting standpoint, and the whole Ohio relationships, and which I think is vitally important. But he has 5 spots still to fill, so I don't really understand.
He said he's going to go get the best coaches in the country. Do you think he was working with guys that he thought were not great coaches? You think he had a staff at Louisville that he was like, man, these guys suck? No, he hired them.
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to hire the guys off your staff first because they're the most familiar with what you're trying to do. Like, if he hired just ex-coach right now, that guy has no idea about their system, has no idea about their recruits, has no idea about guys on the Louisville roster that may be going into the portal. Those guys, I think, will come. But your first hires are always going to be the guys that are on your. I mean, Luke brought 5 people right from UC, and now he's starting to hire other people.
This is the important part. Would you rather he have coaches on staff ready to go and recruit? Because everybody, remember, you got to hire. This is what I love, Dave, the hypocrisy of the changing narrative. You have to hire a coach before Monday. You can't wait until this is taking too long. You got to hire a coach. The portal opens and the signing day is in da 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 da. And you got to get people in because you can't be behind. And then he gets hired and they want him to interview and go through a hiring process for 10 spots while not recruiting the transfer portal and having coaches out on the road recruiting high school kids. It can't be both. He has to get the guys he's comfortable with from Louisville in town to start working their connections in the transfer portal and to start going out on the road and trying to get things in line for signing day.
Yeah, I mean, you had 2 official visit weekends for high school players. I think as long as you're
I agree, Rick.
As long as you're in the portal, you can still take visits after the dead period for high school kids. It's just a matter of can you get enrolled into a school fast enough if you're trying to get into the spring semester.
It's not that you struck a nerve, UCF superfan. It's the same conversation that's happening on the message board and it's happening on Twitter. Like everybody said one thing all the way up until the guy was hired, and then the narrative changed and goes against everything that they said the week before. That strikes a nerve. Hire a coach with Power 5 coaching experience. Well, not that one. Hire a guy that's ahead of the curve on NIL. Well, not that one. Hire a guy that's active in the transfer portal. Well, not that one. Get a staff in place so we can't miss the start of the transfer portal period. We have to be ready for the signing day. Well, not like that. Like it can't. Everybody is asking for both right now, and yeah, that strikes a nerve because I have to hear it every damn day, like every minute of every damn day.
For those on the podcast only version, the comment that Chad was agreeing with by Rick was it would tell me more about Satterfield if no one wanted to come along.
Thank you. Please like and subscribe.
Yeah, I mean, he could be talking to coaches that are like, I want to fulfill this responsibility. I mean, like, what if he's talking to an offensive coordinator or someone that he wants to be his offensive coordinator that is playing it for them an important bowl game? Maybe not a playoff game, but maybe an important bowl game. It doesn't. Just like with recruiting, everybody losing their mind over the decommitments and guys going into the portal. And what do you know? We've had this coach for not even 3 days. We've had the staff coming together, and they're clearly already making inroads with high school recruits, making inroads with transfers. Like, there is a progression. Things take time. The most vital people that he has the closest relationships come first. And then once they're able to now, like, you have coaches out on the road recruiting, which now gives him the opportunity to make some phone calls, try to figure out who his strength coach is going to be, talk to some people about maybe who his offensive coordinator might be, other position coaches that are still open. It can't all happen at the same time and immediately. There is, steps that go into this. So we obviously all want it to be right back up and running and full speed ahead as quickly as possible. But like, you've got 5 assistant coaches that are now out on the road, a head coach in place. The head coach was officially in place, Monday morning, Monday early afternoon. And you have half of a staff put together. They're clearly working the portal, like way more than the last staff ever did. I mean, I'm able to see that, Now, will that mean that there will be a bunch of portal additions? I don't know. You have to get the guys. But like the portal, I'm well aware of several high school kids that they are going after that I'm not putting on the board yet because I don't think it requires to be put on there. I need to see more happen there. But like, there is tons of stuff going on right now. And just because a very specific segment of coaches hasn't been added yet doesn't mean that it's not going to be added. It's just these are the coaches that were always going to be added first. He was always going to bring whatever guys he wanted from Louisville were always going to be first. He doesn't have to interview them. He doesn't have to take calls. I mean, who knows? There could be 20 people banging down his door to be offensive coordinator. Maybe he likes 3 of them. But that takes time to work around schedules and to get that all figured out. And UC to run the background, like they're not just going to be like, "Yep, come on,
get on the road, let's go."
You want this guy? Okay, come on. Like there has to be sub-compliance involved, even though it might take a long time for them to be officially hired. They're not just going to go, "Well, Coach Satterfield said this guy's fine. Let's employ him now."
And look, the rational takes, that's what we try to accomplish here. We try not to be too far on this side of the opinion base, too far on this side of the opinion base. Sometimes Aaron gets a little wild one way or the other, but for the most part, like, we try to be pretty down the middle and fair. And look, guess what? If Scott Satterfield stinks as the head coach of Cincinnati, we will have to talk about it. And we will not be saying everything's fine.
But I'll tell you right now, like if he puts his whole staff together and Kerry Combs is the only guy with like true Ohio ties, I'm going to be like, that's not enough. This isn't going to work. I've already said it.
Right.
Like
but he still has 5 spots open.
Exactly. So like I'm not gonna push him off the edge of the building before he even tells me, shows me the whole story.
Right. But that's where people are at, Dave. Right now. Right now. I need to know right now. And guess what? There's also a reality that it's a risky reality, but there's also this reality, Dave. Louisville tried to recruit Ohio. They just weren't in Ohio. Luke Fickell was pretty much getting what he wanted that weren't going to the Blue Bloods. And Ohio was a very tough place for Louisville to crack. And now they're at Cincinnati, which should make recruiting Cincinnati quite a bit easier because kids here, some of them, would like to stay home. You have to hit on those. But that's not to say we can completely rule out that he's got somebody that has built relationships in Ohio. They just maybe haven't been able to win the battles yet. But I fully agree in that you have to do, like, and we don't know about Kerry yet, but you have to do more than just we hired Kerry Combs in terms of we're going to recruit Ohio.
Yes,
we're going to make Ohio.
I've said too, like, you recruit where you need to recruit and where you have connections. And while to me, Louisville is very close, 100 miles away, it makes sense to recruit Ohio. Not all, because you have Boston College, Virginia Tech, Pitt, Syracuse, but just like UC is going to a Texas-centric conference, Louisville was in a Southern-centric conference, a North Carolina, Georgia,
Right.
Florida-centric conference. You're going to recruit those areas. Yeah, you should try to go to Ohio because Ohio has a lot of good players and you are fairly close, but you need to go where your players are, where the players that your competition is recruiting, where they're going to go to, their parents are going to be able to go to a lot of their games. I mean, if they would go recruit a kid from North Carolina, you got NC State, Duke, Wake, North Carolina, half the damn conference is practically in North Carolina.
Right.
So, of course he's going to go recruit there. So, the way I envision it is he recruits Ohio, and how Fickle and those guys used Indiana, Michigan, Chicago as the
backbone.
The ancillary pieces. That's where they'll use Florida, Georgia, North Carolina.
And they've also recruited a little bit in Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have.
So they should have some footprint up there, at least, some.
And they're recruiting a little bit in Texas already. When they were at Louisville, I put a thing up about a guy on the boards today. So I just think there's, to me right now, nothing that, at least to me, nothing that has happened to this point is surprising. So and not surprising in a good nor bad way. It just seems very, very much like I thought it would go. And so I don't really understand the consternation in it all, but believe me, if things shake out in 3 weeks and it's no different, then yeah, I'll flat say it ain't gonna work, man. You can't just have a guy, or yes, new coaches can go into schools and they can build relationships, but if you've been
playing from behind for a little while when you do that.
Well, yeah, because you've been recruiting. You have coaches that have gone into these schools
because you're dealing with Luke Fickell and Vince Morrow and Marcus Freeman and Mike Mickens and all the guys from Ohio State. You're at a disadvantage if you haven't recruited Ohio and you're trying to go get a really good player that one of those other guys is on. That's damn near impossible.
D. Smith brings up something that's funny to me. He says, I think we're dealing with PTSD of Tubbs' recruiting style. Even without the state local ties, the staff appears to be willing to try. The funny part about the Tubbs thing is he didn't recruit Ohio really well or at all. But he actually did recruit a lot of really good players. He just couldn't develop them for anything. So it was the players that he did get from out of the state were pretty good. They just didn't spend very much time or didn't know how to get them to be good football players.
Richard, thank you for the donation. Why haven't we gotten any big money hires yet? I'm going to try to calmly explain this time because I was a little worked up last time. What happens when you make a new hire, right? Somebody you don't necessarily have, somebody that didn't work for you at your old job. There's an interview process. There's a decision-making process. It took John Cunningham 9 days to hire a head coach. And when you're going through that process, it takes time. It's not as immediate as, here are the guys that are coming with me from my previous school. There was a group of guys 2 days after Luke Fickell left that were still hanging out on the 7th floor of the Linder Center, waiting for Wednesday when they hopped on a private jet to Madison, Wisconsin. And then we knew when those guys got on that plane that they were headed to the coaching staff at Wisconsin. And what we are learning now in the 48 hours after the Scott Satterfield hire are the people that are driving up I-71 and finding residence at a Hilton property for the next couple of weeks. Any new hire is going to take a little bit more time because you have to go through a hiring process. You have to go through interviews and find out. You may on paper like a guy that's an expensive hire or what people are looking for, a big money hire. But if you don't have already a developed relationship with that person, then you're going to have to go through an interview process, and you're going to have to sit down with them, and you're going to have to learn what they're about, and you're going to have to see if their values match your values, and you're going to have to see if what they say about recruiting and NIL and the transfer portal and all of those things fit into what your vision of the next chapter of UC football looks like. If it's guys that you've worked with at the place that you were just employed, those guys are easy because you know what you say to them. You coming? All right. Like I can tell you from talking to my contact in Louisville, who is as close to the Louisville football program as anybody is as close to anything in this business. Louisville tried to keep the running back coach, Sims, that I think probably just drove across the bridge into the 513. When I reported that, he was on I-71 on his way to Cincinnati.
Yeah,
and that's why I was
Jeff Brom talked to him.
Interviewed him today. Tried to get him to stay.
By all accounts, the conversation was great, and he chose not to stay. Would you rather? I guess I just don't understand the.
Yes, we've seen Ruben Owens commits to Texas A&M. He was never coming to Cincinnati.
I don't understand the issue with the timing. Wouldn't you just rather him get who he thinks the best coach is, regardless of how long it takes?
That's also a great point, Matt. Luke Fickell got his offensive coordinator today. It took a week.
Remember, this may not register for everybody, but Bengals fans will remember when they were hiring the defense when Zach
Lou
Taylor
Anarumo
was hiring
this place. They almost wanted to. They not almost. They wanted to fire Zach Taylor.
Oh, it was taking forever. And how could this is the guy you got, and it took you a month after you got the job to hire Lou Anarumo?
And then they wanted to fire Lou Anarumo when he had a group of players that were trash.
Bunch of terrible players. So, I know
have some patience.
It's the the stupid Aaron Rodgers thing, but just relax. We are not even 3 full days in to the Scott Satterfield era?
60 hours. We're 2.5 days into the Scott Satterfield era. 61 hours, I think, almost exactly.
So,
61 hours for me, 62 hours if you work for the Inquirer, 59 hours, 60 hours.
I'm absolutely fascinated by these next 2 weeks of visits. I was thinking about this today. You know how we joke all the time about how signing day is boring? Not this year.
No. I don't think it's going to be boring this year. What's going to be fascinating is finding out who's here this weekend.
Yeah, this weekend and next weekend. What transfer guys? Because if you're a transfer guy and you take a visit, you're either you better be signing. That's where you're going.
Yeah.
Outside of some of the absolute main, the one kid that they offered today, the defensive end from Coastal Carolina, who, the
transfer portal is different. Signing day has nothing to do with the transfer portal.
No, I just mean if any of the transfers are visiting,
yeah,
then So, but yeah, we'll see if any of these kids that the Louisville commits, can they get any of them to visit? I think, Todd asked about. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't see you had one pulled up.
Wrong and immediate is far more damaging than right plus a week later, like Joker Phillips. Joker Phillips tanked the wide receiver room for 3 years. You make a great point, Natalie. Well said. There you go. You can go to Todd now.
No, Richard's got a money question. Todd's get the pass because Richard's got
Yeah, you're right.
$2 out there.
Did Luke Fickell have any issues with former players? I think it's really hard once you get into the weeds to do what former players like feel like they need to be engaged. I know the Letterman's Club has done a great job. They have an awesome tailgate. Those guys work extremely hard. We've had segments of them on here. Some of those guys that were on the Zoom have done a podcast here, especially last year when we had the roundtable going into the college football playoff. But it seemed like in the eye of the storm, he was doing a good job with former players. But I guess what happens is, Dave, and I think you're going to get this. Like, I almost feel like it happens with every coaching change. The guys that are on the periphery feel like they're not included, right? Like the Travis Kelce's, the Jason Kelce's, the Ahmad Gardners, the Desmond Ritters.
Sure. I mean, you can't be everything to everyone. You're trying to win games. You're trying to recruit.
There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of former players, and they have the golf outing. They have the captain's breakfast. They have they do a lot of things, and maybe I mean, I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying I think it's really hard
we don't know what they've how many times they have reached out trying to do something where they've gotten no response or rebuffed or whatever. So yeah, I mean it's hard for us to answer. I want this $5 personally because I feel like I forced him to give a $5 donation by saying his question got skipped. But Todd asks initial thoughts on the new O-line coach coming with Scott Satterfield. He seems, I want to make sure I get his name correct, Nick Cardwell. He seems to be very well liked. One, in perusing their message boards, it sounded like they had nothing but good things to say about him, just as a person in general. But it really seemed like the players and the recruits liked him a lot. We've already seen one offensive lineman enter the portal. I'm not sure if that's related to him leaving, the coaching staff leaving, what have you. I've heard that that they have two offensive line commits that I think a lot of what they're going to do was dependent on if he was still there or not. Now they still might go to Louisville. They might go somewhere else. But, I think offensively they were really good running the ball 2 years ago, not as good this year. Their offense just as a whole took a step back this year.
Malik Cunningham was hurt quite a bit this year, right?
He was hurt and injured, and they
in and out.
They had to bring in a couple transfer running backs that were still good. I mean, their two main running backs rushed for 1,200 yards and about 6 yards a carry combined.
Yeah.
Malik Cunningham ran for a bunch of yards too, but the year before that they averaged well over 200 yards. I think they were very high in the nation in rushing touchdowns, something like 29 rushing touchdowns. I've looked at so many different coach bios and stats that I don't know what year runs into what, but I mean, I think there's positive things to take away from a lot of the coaches that have been hired so far, but like anything else, we got to see how it translates. I'm not going to get super excited over some coaches getting hired at the beginning of December.
Did you get your $5? I sent it to you.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know. Yeah, that UCF fanboy accounts are mocking you and screen grabbing these podcasts.
Yeah.
Stay hinged. Don't be unhinged like Aaron was last Monday, and people won't mock you. Aaron gave the Louisville fan base hours and hours of entertainment.
Yeah, it was definitely just me. Yeah, just me.
What happened the first 7 minutes of that podcast is what they are screen grabbing and making fun of. Yeah, that was you, bro. You threw a hissy fit and left.
I missed that. I need to go. Do I need to go back and watch?
Mark Ennis, one of the bigger Louisville accounts, has said that the Cincinnati fan base is melting down because Aaron had a bad morning or bad evening because his daughter was sick.
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Like, it is what it is. I'm not mad at Aaron. He had a bad day. Like, we all have bad days. Like Aaron and I have talked about. The difference is our bad days are on video. So Aaron was in a pissy mood. I disagreed with him. Aaron didn't want to deal with me. So he just didn't deal with me. But the Louisville fans took it as these guys are losing their mind because Cincinnati hired Scott Satterfield. And it had absolutely nothing to do with Scott Satterfield. Aaron, would you agree with that part? Is that fair?
My point is, it was after I was being yelled at for having an opinion that was different than Chad's.
I wasn't yelling. You mistake me having a conversation for yelling. If I'm yelling, you will know that I'm yelling. I was just saying, compare Scott Satterfield at Appalachian State to Jeff Brom at Western Kentucky, or like if you're going to look at, I think Sean Lewis was the argument at that conversation at that point in time, right?
Yeah.
I was making the point that if you're going to talk about Sean Lewis at Kent State, compare Scott Satterfield's similar level to when he was at Appalachian State. And you said, quit yelling at me, and you left. Fair?
Like I said, there was two people at play in what happened there. And it was yelling.
Me making a point and you
I don't know if you
having a bad day.
Back. I don't know if you watched the clip back, but it was certainly yelling.
You two knock it off. Both of you always have to get the last word in. Shut the hell up.
We spend 30 hours a week doing this right now, it feels like.
But anyway.
Yeah.
So is there anything about any of the coaches that looks like they're going to be there was an article.
I'm leaving that up to you right now because I'm still running around like a chicken with my head cut off because I can't say no to radio at times that I don't need to be doing radio, Dave.
Well, what else is causing you to run with your head with chicken cut off?
Well, I have to I have to prepare a radio show, which is not it's not like you're just like, oh, turn the mic on and I'm going to talk for 3. It's not like this. I can do this all day.
The Bengals are good. Just do that. Talk
You
about them.
have to come up with topics and research the topics and make sure you have valid points to make.
You talk about how 2 weeks ago I said they were the best team in the AFC.
And here they are. Now they're 8-2 in their last 10. But you got to do research, and then as soon as I get home from radio, I have to do this.
We'll talk this. There was an article.
I want to know your thoughts on the coaching hires, and then my thoughts don't matter because I haven't had time to sit down yet.
There was an article today on footballscoop.com where we first found out about Derek Nicholson, linebacker coach, coming as well. We had some. I don't think we had it officially that the offensive line coach was coming, at least last night, but Nick had been talking to some recruits and he was talking to them already and going to their schools, so put 2 and 2 together. But in the article, it talked about some more people coming, which could mean coaches, but it also could mean support staff and other staff members like that, because with both teams in this bowl game that I honestly wish they would just freaking cancel, it's going to be a disaster for both teams. You know, there are guys that he probably wants to bring to UC that aren't immediately vital to what they're trying to do for the next couple of weeks, that can kind of like finish their responsibilities, be good soldiers for Louisville, help out with the bowl game, and then come after that. I'm sure that's the case with like your quality control coaches, some of your maybe recruiting staff, things of that nature. So UCF Superfan asks, do we even have enough staff to call the bowl game? Honestly, I mean, not in the sense of like doing it well, but they have you know, I guess Gino, he's still a UC staff member.
I do not believe he has been at bowl practices this week.
Oh, so he just quit?
I don't know.
Okay.
I will be at bowl practice tomorrow. So I guess this is something I can address more tomorrow night on the nightcap. But I don't think Gino's been around.
Okay, so maybe he's not. But
he also could be interviewing for head coaching positions,
Sure.
interviewing for offensive coordinator positions. I don't think he's been around since Todd, stop. Like, quit. Will you guys please quit dragging one of the legends of UC football just because, like, it makes you laugh? The guy's in the Ring of Honor. The guy is one of the reasons that this football program started to turn around. And because he had a bad year at offensive coordinator, you guys want to drag the guy's name and his reputation? Like, it's a bit much, man. It's a bit much. It's a bit much. He is on paternity leave also. He had a child a week ago today.
Whatever. Not a big deal.
Yeah, not a big deal.
You have Darren Page. You have
Kerry Walt. You have Nate Letton,
James Ross, Kerry Walt, and then you'll have your, your quality control guys. It's just how it goes this time of year. Louisville is going to be in the exact same spot, so it should be it should be a doozy.
My Louisville guy thinks Louisville's going to get drugged in this game, and I'm like, well, I kind of think what you think. Like, I don't know. Like, is Corleone even going to be healthy enough to play? Like, we know Ben's not going to play. I would assume, it's a backfield of Prater and maybe Kiner. Like, if you're Charles McClelland, are you really going to go out there and?
No, absolutely not. Miles Montgomery, Ryan Montgomery,
I love Thrifty Walrus. Holy crap. What a great I would disagree with Dave on the canceling the bowl game. It's going to be a boost to my self-confidence with how poorly both teams look. Like, at least things aren't going that poorly for me.
Well, there was another one I saw today. So Kentucky is playing Iowa.
Will Levis is out. It's going to scratch the same itch as Colts versus Broncos on Thursday night.
Will Levis is out. I think top 2 quarterbacks have transferred. So you have like 2 of the worst offenses in college football against 2 of the best defenses in college football.
Did you see the number?
With like no good offensive players playing.
Did you see the number?
The over-under?
Yeah.
No.
I think it's dropped to, I think the last I saw tonight, it was at 31.
Oh, my God.
Have you ever seen a number?
No.
There were under 35?
There were several Iowa numbers in the 30s this year. And one was like really, really low. I forget who it was against. And the under was just absolutely the wrong play. But I took it anyway, just on principle. That like
just
I want
to have it.
I want to be able
to.
I want to be able to say that if it hit, that I actually picked the under in a game that like had no business being the under.
Yeah. Kicker Christian Lowry is still on the roster.
Why would we kick in this game?
Right. Why would you kick field goals in this game?
You should run the triple option. You're going to have what? Will, Pauling, Blue Smith, Chris Scott.
Maybe Tyler? We don't know about Tyler. We haven't
I
heard on
mean,
Tyler.
yeah, no, there's nothing definitive. I'm just.
I mean, if you're Trey Tucker, do you play in this game? Like, you can help yourself in this game if you're Trey Tucker.
I still wouldn't. I think there's way more to lose than gain. He's just going to go to he's going to the Senior Bowl. Like, he's got the invite to the Senior Bowl, which almost guarantees the invite to the Combine. Like, there's absolutely no reason for him to play in this game. You don't have to kick extra points, Todd.
Darren says Iowa's QB situation will probably improve with not actually having one on the roster.
It very well could. It very well could.
You have to really shank it to hit the green monster. It's behind the benches on the sideline.
Mhm.
Yeah. The long-awaited Blue Smith breakout game. All right, now we're getting into some, like, you guys are being fun now, which the depressing, like, geez, guys, come on. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, you've got who's that? Yep.
The rosters are going to be a real who's who of who's that. Thrifty Walrus, I am going to hire you. Like,
I can't wait to see who the announcers are, to see how deep they have to go into, like, the, into the 2 deep and the 3 deep.
Your job running the BCJ Twitter account might be in trouble with Thrifty Walrus. He might get access to the account just to post one-liners, because this guy for like 2 weeks he hasn't missed. He's the PFT commenter of the live chats. My goodness. The Prater breakout game
would be great.
Quincy Burrows is in the portal, I believe. Or has said he was going to the portal.
Not officially.
Not officially, but said he was going to the portal. Over under on how many fans actually go to this game.
Oh, God. I mean, this will be a Temple-esque game.
The only thing I think is there will be people that go just to like go to a game at Fenway. I do think there is some of that.
Sure.
Yeah, I did see Blue Smith's Twitter. He posted, "I'm playing, LOL, if anyone's excited about my debut." Oh, Steven will be there with his wife and kid. Yeah, who the fook is that guy? There's going to be a lot of that on both sidelines.
So, what else we can't really talk. I mean, there's not really individual players like that the staff is recruiting. I mean, they're definitely going after what feels like the group of Louisville commits that are not tied to the Adidas
NIL, stuff. Yeah. Which
it's hard to tell who's tied to what, because I have no idea because I don't care to look into this stuff, but someone
it's on the board, 7-on-7. Like, that's more Wild West than AAU.
Someone on the board today said that their offensive line commit that's from just outside Atlanta was tied to the St. John's Bosco guys in California. I'm like, well, I would have no idea about that because it makes no sense at all.
Yeah. Fair.
But they've offered some of the high school commits. There's some other guys that they're in on that we'll see if maybe that are uncommitted players. See if any of those guys show up over the next couple weeks.
Sure.
What? Sure. What?
See if those guys show up over the next couple weeks. Sure.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. I think that's the thing too, though. This whole Adidas thing for them, does it just not feel like a house of cards?
Yes and no. It's a house of cards in that it is one specific person that is connected to Adidas, being the guy that's the dad of the quarterback recruit, running this quarterback academy. So it was a way for Adidas to funnel money into the quarterback academy to get, and again, like I've talked about, like Louisville and Adidas are Louisville is Adidas's flagship. Like I think Louisville's getting $12 million a year on their Adidas deal. So Louisville being good is important, very important to Adidas, more so than just about anybody else that has an Adidas contract. So when Louisville football hit the tank, it became very important for Adidas to say, what can we do to help fix this? And this was a way that they felt they could help fix this, right?
I get all that, but and I'm not saying this to talk crap about them, but a lot of these players are very, very sought after recruits. They're high level guys. Offers to a lot of places that can probably do similar things for them as what Louisville / Adidas is doing. At what point do they just go, yeah, I don't really want to play football there. I don't care about, I'm going to get something very similar here.
Depends
and I would
on
rather,
how many dollars.
And I would rather play football here.
Depends on the dollars, Dave. If each kid's getting $100,000 to go to Louisville,
you don't think
each kid's getting $250,000 to go to
USC,
Louisville?
Texas A&M, Ohio State could do that?
But you're dealing with the guy that was so most of these guys are from St. John's Bosco in California. This guy is somebody that they've known since they were kids. So this is a guy they trust. And it's a guy you trust. There's a shit ton of money involved. You're getting to go there with your boys.
Do we think that any of these guys will have a 3 or 4 year career?
Probably not. No.
So I'm looking at it from my program.
I know, but I'm looking at it from their perspective.
I don't know if that's the way I want. Yeah, it's great, and I don't know. It just feels like not a great way to build a recruiting class, not a great way to build a roster.
So any idea on the difference of NIL money between UC and Louisville? They can be super far off, Jeffrey, because what you have to consider here is Louisville is basically the same size as Cincinnati without any of the other things that Cincinnati has pulling dollars. There's no Bengals. There's no Reds. There's no Xavier. There's no FC Cincinnati. So all of the dollars in Louisville go to one of two places, UK or U of L. So the NIL stuff in Louisville is definitely considerably different than here, because there it's very easy to galvanize that base and say you're part of this, because you're not pulled in as many different directions. So somebody that's willing to invest or willing to spend, let's just say spend advertising dollars, because I think advertising dollars everybody talks about it's going to come from donations, donations to the university are what's going to have to change in terms of NIL for Cincinnati. And that's right in the Cincinnati scope. But in the Louisville scope, you don't have people spending $100,000 on the Bengals. You don't have somebody spending $250,000 on the Reds. They're spending on the University of Louisville. So their money can be redirected a lot easier at the University of Louisville, because all of the money is going to one place. Where here, the money is going to, look, there are companies we know are diehard Xavier companies. Listen to a Xavier basketball broadcast. There are 5 or 6 or 7 companies you will never hear have any involvement in a UC broadcast. Why is that? The people that run and own those companies are Xavier people. There's stuff that you hear on the Bengals. There's stuff that you hear on the Reds that you won't hear at UC, because those people have decided to put their money investment into the Bengals or their investment into the Reds. In Louisville, the investment is, do you invest the money in Louisville or do you send your money to Lexington to support UK? That's it. That's the market. So that's one of the rare, there's a lot of talk about the Nebraska job, right, Dave?
Mm-hmm.
The Nebraska job is great because everybody there spends all of their money investing in Nebraska. Lincoln's not a major market. Nebraska doesn't have like a major metropolitan area, right?
Correct.
But all of the state focuses their money on the University of Nebraska. Louisville, the money in the city is focused on Louisville. Cincinnati, the money in the city is spread out in a vast array of sporting options. And that's something that UC has to overcome. That's part of what Cincy Reigns has to navigate. That's part of what they have to overcome. And I think that's why you're seeing some crowdsourcing and you're seeing a different approach that we've never really seen before from UC, which is a place that, Dave, we have talked about this a million times. UC has been a place that relies on their top 10 to 20 donors more than maybe anywhere in the country. And that can't be the case anymore. They have to change the way that they have approached that. And that's partially why. But it's difficult because once you get out of those top 15, top 20 donors, you're wading into that pool of people that are supporting the other things that are going on in the city. Those are waters that it takes a lot of time to navigate.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much as getting people to donate or getting companies to give and then be involved for the first time. It's getting them to take money that they've been giving to someone else and then now have them give it to you. So, but I would like to shift the conversation a little bit to something very funny. I don't know if you saw or any of our listeners have seen tonight, but there is a young man, Dylan Johnson, running back at Mississippi State.
I saw the tweet, yeah.
That is entering the transfer portal. And he
was their leading rusher, right?
He's like leading rusher this year. Yeah. And he did the whole graphic and, thank God, and I love my family and all this. And then you get down towards the end, and he says, since I'm not very tough, and Leach, as in Coach Leach, is glad I'm leaving, I will be entering my name into the transfer portal.
Love it. Those conversations go on everywhere. He was told to leave, and he had some fun with it. More power to that kid.
Leading rusher is just I'm not doing this crap anymore. So I thought that was funny. And then everybody's favorite commissioner, Brent Yormark, he went in on the old not Big 12. That would be
Pac-12.
The Rose Bowl, really. And
then said, we're going west, essentially.
Yes. So I don't even know where these people are. Where is he to give these comments? But I will read some of them. Big 12 commish, not a fan of what he believes the Rose Bowl did during CFP expansion talks. I was put off candidly by the Rose Bowl. I don't believe in anybody putting themselves in front of the sport. They finally realized they had to do what was best for college football, which is great to hear because that's what everybody that follows college football was saying.
Right.
But nobody that's been a lifer inside the sport would dare say it, but he did. So good for him.
Yep. Lane Kiffin retweeted that because Lane Kiffin is the best Twitter follow in college football. Zero fucks given from Lane Kiffin. If it's a chance for Lane Kiffin to take a shot at somebody, he's it. He's it. So I love that from him.
Yormark also said that we would love to get into the fourth time zone regarding future expansion.
When he was asked about the 4 new members coming in. And he's like, we love the 4 new members coming in. We'd also like to go steal some members from the Pac-12. we're looking to add some more of those people too. We're not there yet, but we're looking.
Regarding Gonzaga, as a basketball only member, it's all about value creation. He says the Big 12 is doubling down on hoops. I think basketball is an opportunity to take our brand internationally. There was a lot made of the collaboration between the Big 12 and a company called Bathing Ape, which I had never heard of until the Big 12 championship game last weekend, because I am an old, as some people like to say. But he said that the Big 12 championship last week was a peek under the hood of where this conference is going. They did get a lot of publicity over that, which I don't know what that is, but I don't think I'm the person that brand and company is targeting. But I did notice, like on Twitter, they got a lot of buzz over that and Ashanti singing the national anthem. And not some like random country artist from Dallas that no one's ever. And I love country music. I like all music, but like you see these like
major stars.
You had like a very well known artist sing your national anthem versus just you could add anybody, I guess. But like that created like those things legit created like some buzz.
He has said all along that's what he's going to do. That's his focus. All right, I think Dave left. He's going to get another Gatorade out of the fridge. He's coming back. He's cracking. This one's not a small Gatorade. This one's a big Gatorade. I think the last one was a smaller Gatorade. So, all right, now he's off screen. Now he's back on screen. He's sitting back down. He looks to be settled again. And Dave is back. Okay. How many Gatorades do you have in your fridge? You always have a Gatorade. You're muted.
Sorry.
Do you go to Costco and buy the giant, like the
No, I just get them. No, because Costco doesn't have. I only drink
flavors you like.
I only drink really Gatorade Zero Grape.
Okay.
Or I should say purple. So I don't think you can get just those on their own. Like you have to get the big triple variety, like the 3 flavor pack or whatever. So no, I have usually, the 8 packs or whatever between 3 and 4 in my garage at a time.
Thanks for the good play-by-play. Natalie says, looks to be purple, perhaps dark blue of sorts. Great choice by the wily veteran Simone.
That's right.
That was in a golf picking your club choice, like a tone.
I do have an old T-shirt that just has like a jug of grape drink on it, and it says made with 100% real purple.
Now we're having discussions about the time zones.
The old Sunny D commercials.
Natalie points out that the Pacific time zone does not include Arizona and Utah. Jason points out.
I thought it did for part of the year.
Jason points out Arizona doesn't switch with daylight savings time. They're in the Pacific time zone half the year. Can Dave get UC an NIL deal with Gatorade? UCF fan on this pod has gone sideways. That's what we do here. I listen to people bitch about it all the time, but look, I don't care.
It's not NPR. This isn't just a news station.
It's a podcast. Sometimes these podcasts lose focus. Yes. These podcasts are designed to be entertaining, to contain a lot of information, and also just kind of be stream of conscious. Do you guys really? I'm going to go on a rant, Dave. I feel it coming. I feel it coming. I'm sorry. I feel it coming.
Pump the brakes.
Do you guys really want us to be boring? And just, here is the UC news. This is who UC has hired to Scott Satterfield's coaching staff. No. You want to get to know us. You want to feel you have some connection to who we are as people and what we're about and who we are. And that adds to the information as we're talking about it, and it adds perspective to like our point of view. And I refuse to go away from that. I refuse. And since I spent 20 years building this up from scratch. I get to be czar. I get to be the dictator. This is not a democracy. Son of a bitch. So we're at an hour and 50 minutes, and we haven't touched on the crosstown shootout, and we have to.
I mean, what's there to talk about?
Do you need me to? If you can't talk basketball, I have to fire you from this podcast.
I mean, I don't mean what's there to talk about in like, yeah. Okay, are we going to win one?
Well, okay. Here's the topic I broached today on the radio, and I will talk
has
about
the crosstown shootout lost its luster?
This week it probably has, because UC fans are worried about some other shit. This week, Paul Doherty is right. The crosstown shootout has lost its luster. Czar Brindle. I like it, Drew. I like it. Okay, so
what time is the game? What channel is it on? I don't even know these things.
It's at UC, so I'm guessing it's an ESPN game of some
right?
sort. Yes. It's at 3:00.
Okay.
3:00 Saturday. Based on what we know from these teams, are you surprised?
ESPN 2.
ESPN 2, 3:00. Thank you, Aaron. Are you surprised that Ken Pom has this as Xavier's a 2-point favorite, and that ESPN has UC with a 48% chance of winning, and Pickles is becoming a star?
Oh no, she does not like that. It's not plural. She does.
Pickle.
She gets
It's
very
just
mad.
Pickle.
She gets very mad.
When you call her Pickles?
Yes, there's no S. She hisses.
So it's just Pickle. She hisses when you call her Pickle. Prove it.
I wouldn't dare.
Prove it.
She's very feisty. She'll scratch the shit out of you. She loves.
If you said Pickles right now, she'd fight you?
No, I'm kidding. She hates to like be held, touched. You can't give her any medicine. Like it's awful. But yeah, all day when I'm trying to work, or as you guys see on this, if you're watching live on the podcast, she's constantly like climbing across my computer, keys and all this stuff. And it's just.
So you don't think she knows she's being broadcast live to hundreds of people right now?
I'm pretty sure she does not know. Reagan will be upset. Reagan's a big fan of Pickle, so maybe she'll. Ray. Here's the idiocy of all of this. Do you own more than one cat? Yes, we own 2, and I'm allergic to them.
So she makes you sick every time she sits there. Like
I don't get sick. Like I'm just allergic to a lot of things. But yeah. So no, I don't get like scratchy throat or anything like that. I'm just generally like sick because of her and the other cat.
You're just generally sick.
Yeah,
you got the sniffles a lot. You got bad allergies
every day of the year. So
yeah. She's tail whacked you multiple times already tonight, Dave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's great. But anyway, about those Muskies. I don't know. Should I be surprised? I don't know. I have not watched them play a second of basketball. I know they've played some pretty good teams and had close scores against Duke and Gonzaga. Is that right?
That is right. Yes.
I don't know.
Well,
are you surprised? I guess I'll ask you. Are you surprised?
They lost to Duke 71-64. They lost to Gonzaga 88-84. They beat Florida 90-83. Florida's not very good.
Sounds like they don't love to play defense. Is that an accurate statement?
That is an accurate statement. They lost to Indiana 81-79.
So it sounds like anybody with a pulse is scoring in the high 70s or higher when they play them.
West Virginia, they beat West Virginia 84-74. So that's also another team that was a Huggins team that was in the mid 70s against Xavier. Yeah. So I think you're dealing with 2 teams that can score when Xavier more consistently can score than Cincinnati can, but neither team has had any evidence that they are worth a shit on the defensive end.
Is this like a who can stay on the floor longer, Vic and Fremantle type of situation?
Well, Vic is critical in this game, because if they get in his head and he can only play 17 minutes, UC doesn't have anything behind him. Odie can give you, 10 minutes of hustle and making, getting a couple rebounds and maybe making a play on defense or getting a block shot. But Odie's not a guy that you can rely on. If Vic is in foul trouble, Odie's going to give you 22 minutes a game. Kalu in the Bryant game was benched to burn the red shirt of.
Yeah. What was up with that?
Kalu has not played well.
But then
So
why did you have to play?
Because
Sage.
if Kalu is not going to play well, you have to have a third guy at center. And they felt that Sage has earned his shot in practice. He has performed better than Kalu in practice. He's been more consistent. His effort has been good. So he's 7'1". We're gonna need him this year. We tried to redshirt him, but the guy that we brought in to kind of facilitate that redshirt has not been good enough. Isn't that what people that's what people want, right? Make adjustments. You thought this was going to be the case. This has not been the case. So make an adjustment. You made the adjustment. Now Sage Tolentino is in the rotation.
What's been the issue there? Because didn't we preseason talk about him as a starter?
So he's skilled, right? He's a guy that's got some offensive. It hasn't showed out yet here, and maybe this is a wait. Maybe that game that burned Sage's red shirt is a wake up call for Kalu. But the reality is he has not done enough to earn his reputation. He's not been physical. He's not been a good defender. He's not offset that with an ability to be a weapon on the offensive end. So how can you play that guy that is supposed to be an offense guy, but hasn't done anything on offense, and he's at best marginal on defense, doesn't really rebound, and he hasn't been a great effort guy? That's a guy you have to sit, right? You can't continue to play him just because you're supposed to play him.
Well, as long as you have someone else that you feel can play better. So, yeah, they must feel that way.
Yeah. Nunji's 7 foot and an elite scorer at all three levels. You can't match him without Vic, Kevin Fink. I agree 1,000%. You have got to have Vic on the floor for the entirety of this game. And hopefully you get Vic in a situation where he can put Nunji in foul trouble, because they're able to get him the ball in the post and he can make some things happen. How'd Sage look? He played 5 minutes. He looked like a freshman playing his first college game.
His first 5 minutes of college basketball.
Yeah, that's how he looked. So here we go.
I guess my concern lies in the fact of the best they have looked all year is against a Division II team, against one of the worst teams in all of Division I college basketball in Louisville, and then against a team missing 6 players. No,
that's bullshit, Dave.
What is?
The Bryant missing 6 players.
Oh, they were? I don't know. Maybe
they were missing one of their top 7.
Okay,
their top 8.
Okay, I did not know who they were.
The
missing.
bottom of their roster was decimated, but there was only one regular rotation guy, one starter that was out.
I did not know the.
If you're gonna go that route with Bryant, I would just say you have to go that route with Cincinnati. Cincinnati was missing 2 of their top 8 guys. because Rob Finney broke his foot and.
Oh, that's fine. I didn't know. All I
No.
saw was that they were
I'm
out
explaining.
6 guys.
Yeah, that was a Rothstein thing. And remember, where's Rothstein located?
New York.
Where's Jared Grasso? A legend. New York, New Jersey.
Who's that?
Brian's coach.
Oh, okay.
Jared Grasso's a legend. Like, he's a big name in New York City basketball. His dad was a great player. Grasso's got a lot of, if you watch the game, Grasso is a lot of, there's a whole bunch of Danny Hurley in Jared Grasso. And you guys know, I
like Danny
Hurley.
from
That's
Stores.
my guy. Yeah, Danny from Stores is my guy. But Jared Grasso during the game is a lunatic. So there's a lot of that in Jared Grasso. So, yeah. I mean, it comes down to one thing for me, this crosstown shootout. If Cincinnati shoots under 40% from the floor and 30% from 3, they're going to get their ass kicked. They're just going to. If they can shoot against a bad Xavier defense, we've established this is a Xavier team that does not play good D.
Do they
If
rebound?
they can be in the 75s and 80s, 75 to 85, somewhere in that range, they're going to have a chance to win the game.
Can we, like, do they rebound?
Not like a typical Xavier team. They're not a dominant team on the glass. So I think that is a situation where, like, it's going to be a game day, like, which team rebounds better. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's one team you look at. And, I mean, I guess it would be Xavier because they're going to play with Nunji and Fremantle on the floor most of the time. But I don't think there's, like, a decided Xavier's dominating the glass and UC's poor on the glass. Our guy Thrifty Walrus says, like to see him go 5 out with Vic off the court. Maybe DeJulius, Nolly, Skillings, Reed, JD. I just don't think you can do it against X. Because if you do that against X, they are just throwing the ball to Nunji and Fremantle on the block and getting 2 points every time. Like, they're just gonna. If you don't have a big guy on the floor, they're just going to dominate you with those 2 guys. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Not for all the minutes without Vic, but just for a stretch or 2. Like, I see what you're getting at. Try to punish them. And here's the thing with this Xavier team. They do get caught up in, like, they just want to play pickup ball and run up and down the floor. So maybe I
feel like some of our guys want to do that too.
Well, of course, that's what I'm saying. Maybe you can catch them having more guys on the floor that want to play that style. So that's where it's not a terrible idea, Walrus.
You have to be able to exploit Kunkel.
Sure. Well, it comes down to this, Dave. You can't have 2 of DeJulius, Nolly, Davenport having a bad game. 2 of those 3 have to have a good game, and you probably need the third to have an okay game if you're going to win, right?
I'd say you probably need them all 3 to have a pretty good game.
Well, that's what I mean. 2 of them have to be really good, and the third one has to be pretty good if you're going to win this game. If 2 of them are good and one of them's really bad, like 2 points or 1 point or what we saw in Maui, like, you're going to be hanging on for dear life in most of this game.
Sure. Because we already know that some guy for them that no one knows or that doesn't do much is going to make like 5 threes.
Right.
So you have to have a way to combat that.
Yes. I think Dan Skillings and Josh Reed are going to play an important part in this outcome. Are they ready for, and look, I was joking around with Landers yesterday about you haven't seen anything like this. And he was like, I've seen everything. And I'm like, look, man, I'm not trying to be Troy Copain, who like got into Landers' ear when Troy was in town about UC and Landers obviously took offense. because he's played in the ACC and he was at Memphis and all that stuff. But like the atmosphere in this game, if you haven't experienced it, is unlike anything you've seen. Wes has said the atmosphere for the shootout last year was more intense than anything he saw in Duke, North Carolina. And I think a lot of that is also like being in and around the city of Cincinnati every day, where it means something to both sides. And if you're at the counter ordering food at Skyline and there's a Xavier fan behind you and they see it's Wes Miller in front of you, they're going to talk trash. And if it's a UC fan, you know what they're going to say? Hey, man, got to beat Xavier this year.
Well, that's the thing is like, you know, for Wes and the North Carolina Duke rivalry, like it's a huge rivalry. And I'm not saying this to downplay that, but like they
play twice a year, usually sometimes 3 times a year. Like
they also have national championship aspirations. And we can say that UC does and we can say that Xavier does, but neither of them have played in a national championship in a very, very, very long time. So, not saying like this is the quote unquote Super Bowl game, but like if Duke loses to Carolina, they're like, yeah, okay, we're still good enough to win the title.
Right.
And that's the goal.
That's our goal.
Like, so the game is just in the rivalry sense, the game is just a little bit different than I think that might be a little bit of the reason why.
I think this is part of it, Kevin. An example of how close they are. Kevin was on the cross-country team. They'd run to Xavier and back on their easy days and still have to add on miles. Like, that's how close they are. Like, you can get to Xavier and back in no time. There have been announcers that have done games at Xavier at noon and been to UC at 4 by tip-off, right? Like, and they didn't need Kirk Herbstreit where he used to have to take a plane or a helicopter.
Wheels up.
Yeah. No. Just hop in the car and your driver gets you there in 15 minutes. So it's something that we'll see how these guys handle it. And here's the interesting thing, Dave, that I don't think is being talked about much. Xavier hasn't played a true road game this year.
Interesting.
They played neutral sites. They played their MTE. They played home games. They have not played on the road yet this year. So playing at Fifth Third is going to be a very different environment for Sean Miller's first team.
I kind of like, yes, I want to win, but like I also feel like, and the dynamic has felt weird over the last several years. You had the COVID situation, you had the John Brandon era, but like I just kind of want to see us like bring the fight to them. I feel like we don't do that anymore. Like we're playing on our heels. We're playing on our heels in this game, like right from the jump. And whether that's a confidence thing or when it's been at Xavier, like a playing on the road thing, but like it feels like we're the reactionary team and they're the aggressive team.
Yeah. Smack them in the mouth. Don't let them be the team that this means everything to them and nothing to UC.
I don't even know. I don't even know if that's fair to say that we look at it a different way than they do, but like the fight on the floor has felt different.
Yeah, I agree. I think Xavier has played better basketball to this point in the season. I feel like UC is starting to figure themselves out.
Yeah, it's like not all 6-3 records are the same.
But UC is also in a position now where 2 guys they were counting on to be their top 8 are gone, and they were the 2 guys they were counting on to play defense.
Yeah, like those are the 2 guys that would bring the fight probably more than anybody else.
Right. So, like what we have talked about, like what's the biggest problem with this roster? Too many like one skill guys, or too many guys that this is what they do. Landers Nolly plays offense.
One dimensional.
Yeah, like one skill set. Like they're you brought them in for this specific thing. The two guys that Wes Miller brought in to anchor the defense are gone. So now they have to figure out a new identity. They have to lean into offense. Are Daniel Skillings and Josh Reed going to be able to make big plays in this game? Because they will have to make big plays in this game. If the lights are too bright in this game for the first time for those two guys, UC is going to be in trouble. But if they combine for 14 points and 10 rebounds, then UC is going to have a chance to win this game, I think.
Right.
Not confident in Vic keeping his composure. He has to prove, and that's from RQ30. He has to prove that he can do that. He has to. The thing I will say that I think is good for Vic is this is going to be a fifth third, so it's not going to be an entire or a subset of people raining down negativity on Vic. It's going to be people supporting him when he does something well. The confidence is going to be different than at NKU, I thought he crumbled because of their crowd. I thought their crowd got in his head, and then he started missing free throws, and they were kind of taunting him, and he could never get back on track. He's not going to have to deal with that at Fifth Third Arena. We need Tupac energy. I really hope it's loud at Lambic says, I really hope it's loud as shit in there, and our fans really turn it up to 11. That's going to be reliant on the team coming out and playing well right away. Don't you agree, Dave? If you come out and you're down 20-9,
they want to be that,
right,
but you can't. That's the thing is, so many of these games have just the first segment, the first 4 minutes, you're like, it's 14-6, and you're just like, here we go again.
Yeah. And I mean, I think this is fair, Garrison. Not expecting much, not trying to be negative, but I'm not going to get myself worked up about the game knowing our roster.
Garrison,
that's why I think it's
not being negative, man. You're going off of a pretty absurdly poor track record, regardless of who the coach has been.
That's why I think it's fascinating that both ESPN and KenPom think that this is a coin flip. And Broering tried to sell it today on the radio as, oh, it's just because of home court advantage. Okay, well, that's 3 points.
Yeah, because they've never won at UC.
Come on. I'm not expecting much either. If you're asking me from eye test, everybody loves eye test, right? We're right around college football selection time. That show just happened 4 days ago. Eye test is a big thing. Xavier has played better basketball to this point in the season. But that's not to say that UC is not able to win this game. And the KenPom and ESPN stuff just tells me it's like when Vegas, it's like when you see a line, Dave, and I'm guessing this line's going to be 3.
Right, you see a line that they're like, what? That line should not be that.
I'm going to scratch my head and be like, they generally know something we don't, which tells me everybody that crunches the numbers thinks that this is going to be a game that is decided in the final segment. You hit the under 4 media timeout, and we find out who wins the game.
I would love that, because that's when you should be relying on your home crowd, because the game is in that position.
Right. So, that's what I'm sure, and I know Brent will have an awesome write-up on the game coming up, breaking down both teams and what to expect, the storylines to watch. I'm not sure if Berg's going to send me anything. I know this game makes him completely unhinged. I've sat next to him multiple times during the crosstown shootout. I have a decade almost of history with Berg. During the crosstown shootout, he handles it as poorly as anyone I know handles anything. Dave, he had a towel and reggae music one game. And he just chewed on the towel like Jerry Tarkanian and listened to Bob Marley.
He was at the game doing this?
At the game, sitting in the media section with his headphones in, listening to Bob Marley and a towel to chew on.
Seems well adjusted.
I've seen him walk out at halftime at the Cintas Center. He went to a couple games at the Cintas Center with me, and he just packed his shit up and left.
Well, I mean,
I don't blame him on a couple of those games.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not in a position where I think I'm comfortable saying UC is gonna win. I'm in a position saying I think I've watched Xavier play better basketball so far this year, but if you really dig into it, they've lost the games that matter. They beat Florida, they beat West Virginia. I don't know if those teams are all that good, but Xavier got wins there. And we'll see what happens on Saturday.
Yes, that Scott Satterfield will be at the game Saturday.
Will football recruits be at the game? Here's the problem with that. In order for football recruits to be at the game, the football staff has to be able to buy tickets to the game, and it's been sold out. So I think people have this misunderstanding that like they can just walk in at any time and be like, hey, we're the football team. We're at the basketball game. You have to actually buy those tickets. And those tickets have to be for sale, which would be a block of tickets that would have to be for sale for all of the people that are going to be in town visiting this weekend.
Yes.
Will there be basketball and football recruits at the game? BearcatJournal.com. We will have that coverage there. That's not something right now we're going to discuss on podcasts because podcasts are free. And Bearcat Journal is how we pay the bills.
Something I will discuss on the podcast is an offer went out tonight. I guess what they now call a re-offer. Mm-hmm. Like when you offer someone and then you change schools and now you're re-offering them at your new school.
Uh-huh.
To a player by the name of Kylan Fox, who's in the 2024 class.
Okay.
He is the number 87 ranked player in the nation.
Okay.
And has offers at Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, but apparently also liked Louisville a lot too. And now UC is recruiting him, and I think quarterback coach Pete Thomas might be an important person in that recruitment. So we'll see. I also saw he may be deciding like in 10 days. So I'm not sure how viable of an option how viable of an option UC will be, but just interesting that offer went out, and he mentioned Coach Nicholson and Coach Thomas in his I think he's a tight end in his recruit in his tweet.
Reagan, make sure you know it's pickle, not pickles.
She knows.
Okay. Just making sure she knows.
She knows.
Also, before we go, gambling content's coming, Dave.
I know. We've talked about it.
Well, we're officially a partner with Betfred. So don't go to Betfred yet. Don't. But we will have links for you. We will have promotions. We will have specials. We will have Reagan doing a ton of gambling content that's coming up on the TikTok and the YouTube and the Instagram and here on Bearcat Journal. And we will have podcasts, and we will get you guys ready to go for January 1st when gambling goes live in Ohio.
Less than a month.
And look, you will help us. If you're going to gamble, you will help us immensely if you do your gambling with Betfred.
Right in time to get your Bengals Super Bowl tickets in when they're have terrible odds.
Right.
I got mine in a long time ago. I have to look at my ticket and see what odds I got compared to what they are now. I do have a funny story. So, a gambling story. I told my buddy was in Vegas, and I told him to get me a ticket on win the AFC North and win the AFC. And
Like a
he's
parlay.
No, I wanted two separate tickets.
2 tickets. Okay, 2 separate tickets. I got you.
So the next day he sends me a picture of the tickets, and I go, "That's cool. Where's the one to win the AFC North?" And he goes, "Oh shit, I got drunk. So I've got to win the Super Bowl ticket
and to win the AFC
and
ticket.
to win the AFC ticket." I'm like, "All right, let's go."
Yeah. Good luck. Hopefully, did he go? Was he still there to make the AFC North bet?
No, I didn't. We didn't do that one.
Okay. Is this when you add the if you have a gambling problem statement? Yeah, absolutely. If you have a gambling problem, call. I don't have the number.
Right now, we're talking, since gambling is not legal in Ohio, we're talking units.
Units. We're just talking future going forward.
In like 24 days, we'll talk dollars.
But if you want to gamble in Ohio, we will have a way for you to do that with our partner.
I hope they're going to have some good promotions for us, because every other DraftKings, FanDuel, Barstool, MGM, they got some mega promotions. So Betfred better get on it.
Also, this discussion is 100% for entertainment purposes only and does not involve real money betting. Gambling can be addictive. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER in the U.S. This service is intended for adult users only. Individuals must be 21 or older to participate in sports betting and iGaming in the U.S.
You're pretty good at that.
Great read.
Yeah, that's a great read. Have you been practicing your reads?
No.
Yeah, right. While changing diapers.
He's reading the fine print on the diaper boxes in his spare time. Aaron, dynamite gambling drop in. Awesome stuff. If you have a gambling problem, call Dan Simon.
He'll get you straight. He'll get you straightened out.
Yeah. All right, let's get out of here. That's our BCJ pod Crosstown Shootout preview. Thank you to John Cunningham and Brian Fox. Hopefully that is all you guys need to know and all the information that you're looking for on Cincy Reigns. And it urges you and pushes you to become a participant and somebody that is backing the people that are backing the athletes at the University of Cincinnati. Like I said, Bearcat Journal will be involved, and we will have a place in this world as well. And as a member of Bearcat Journal, you will get exclusive content that nobody else is going to get. So let's make it happen. Dave, appreciate you, good sir. Aaron,
thank you.
Great job tonight. We will see everybody next time. It is the BCJ podcast brought to you by the Holy Grail right here on BearcatJournal.com.